Elon Musk, shocked to see his black son with a beggar claiming to be the Millionario. The street was chaos, shouts bouncing off cracked walls, sirens screaming just around the corner, and the heavy smell of burnt rubber and exhaust choking the air. Ethan Marshall stood frozen, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might burst through his chest. There, on the sidewalk, lay his son, Caleb, pale, limp, as if the life inside him had suddenly fled. Beside Caleb was a man, ragged beyond belief. His clothes hung in tatters, his hair wild like a storm-tossed mess, but the fire in his eyes was sharp, unyielding. "I'm a millionaire," the man whispered hoarsely, like it was a secret too dangerous to say out loud. Ethan's mind slammed into overdrive. This was no normal moment. The usual buzz of city life, the honks, footsteps, half-hearted conversations, drowned beneath the thick tension squeezing his lungs. Passers-by stopped and stared. Phones lifted, whispers like sharp knives slicing through. Someone murmured, "His son, with that beggar? No way!" Ethan's hands shook. He dropped to his knees, gripping Caleb like the ground beneath them was about to swallow them whole. Caleb's face was gray, his breath shallow and uneven. Fear clawed at Ethan's throat, thick and choking. A father's nightmare played out in slow motion. The man's wild eyes locked onto Ethan's. "You don't know me," he rasped, voice cracked and raw. "But I've been waiting in the shadows of your family name. I hold what you're desperate to bury." Anger flared as fast as the panic. Ethan's wealthy world, built on sharp deals and guarded secrets, suddenly cracked open on this grimy, sun-baked street. His fists clenched tight around Caleb's arm. Who was this ragged man, crashing through his life with stories of scandal and betrayal? Around them, the crowd murmured, brows furrowed in disbelief and fascination. Some shook their heads, pity and suspicion tangled together. Others lensed their phones, hungry for a glimpse of this real-life drama. Ethan's chest tightened. This wasn't just about his son's body lying broken on broken concrete. It was about the fragile illusion of power and control slipping through his fingers, and a man whose claim threatened to unravel everything. The street, once a place of careless hustle, felt like a trap, a dark pit where shadows and light danced too closely, and every breath was stolen by the weight of forgotten truths. Ethan's mind raced. Who was this man? What was his lin? The sirens grew louder. Time twisted. The man whispered again, almost a challenge. "You can run, but not from me. Not from what you've hidden." Ethan's grip on Caleb tightened. The city, the people, the secrets, the lies closed in. And just like that, the battle began. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ethan's grip tightened on Caleb, pupils darting between the man's wild eyes and the pale face of his son. The crowd held its breath. Silence filled the space like a heavy weight. The whispers blended into a single question. Who was this man? Tell me what you know, Ethan demanded, voice strained, filled with both dread and defiance. What do you want from us? A flicker of a smile twisted on the man's lips, a spark of madness behind it. You'll see soon enough. But first, you need to understand what's been hidden in your family's past. Secrets that don't just belong to me. He leaned closer, eyes narrowing with intensity. Caleb, he's the key. Heart racing, Ethan shot up. The words crushed him, suffocated him. Key? Caleb was just a child. How could he hold anything of value in this twisted game? Shut your mouth. Ethan's voice echoed, raw and desperate. But the man kept talking, relentless. Your family has carried a weight, Ethan. The kind that sets fires and burns bridges. I was there when it all happened. But didn't the man say? Your family has carried a weight, Ethan. The kind that sets fires and burns bridges. The crowd simmered with curiosity and judgment. People whispered, eyes wide like saucers, some exchanging glances that sparkled with suspicion and cannibalistic interest. Then suddenly, Caleb stirred, a slight gasp escaping his dry lips. Ethan snapped back, his heart leaping at the sign of life. Stay with me, buddy, please. But Caleb's eyes fluttered open, and he whispered weakly, Dad, I remember. Instantly, the air thickened. The man's smile widened, feeding off the tension. What? What do you remember? Ethan was frantic now, every word a plea, a desperate grasp at clarity. Something about... the night in the alley. Caleb's speech was slurred, fragile, leaving Ethan scrambling, piecing together the shadowy recollection. Wait, what night? Ethan's voice broke. The knowledge creeping in felt suffocating. The man laughed, a hoarse sound filled with malice. He's tapping into memories better left buried, Ethan. The night your life changed forever. The night of betrayal. The air grew colder, the crowd pressing forward, mesmerized by the raw drama. Silence! Ethan's voice erupted like a volcano, heart pounding, shame crashing over his skin like ice water. Ignore him, Caleb! You don't have to listen! But Caleb's glazed eyes were glued to the man. You don't understand, Dad. It's all connected. The wind picked up, racing through the alley, like something alive, a whisper of truths lost in the chaos. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the street. A nearby storefront window exploded, sending shards bouncing into the air. In a heartbeat, panic erupted. People screamed, scattering like leaves in a storm. Ethan instinctively threw himself over Caleb, shielding him as glass rained down. Chaos enveloped them, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Through the haze, the man stood unmoving, eyes alight with violent satisfaction, as if he'd orchestrated this madness. You don't know what shadows you walk in, Ethan, but soon everything will change. As the crowd broke apart, the sirens multiplied. Their cries distorted, but loud enough to slice through the terror. With every passing moment, the distance between safety and danger seemed to collapse, leaving Ethan in a raw, terrified state. At that moment, a shadow darted past them. A figure emerging from the chaos, cloaked in darkness. Heart in throat, Ethan's eyes widened as he recognized the familiar silhouette. No, it can't be. The figure spun around, face illuminated by the commotion, revealing a shocking truth. The last person he ever expected to see. Ethan's world tightened, the roots of his assurance unraveling, leaving nothing but questions. How deep did this rabbit hole go? What truth was he on? Ethan's grip tightened on Caleb as the weight of the moment crashed down like a wave. The man, the ragged stranger, seemed to sense it, his eyes glimmering with something that felt like fate. You think you're untouchable, but everyone has a secret. The challenge hung in the air, thick and daunting. Caleb stirred, his eyelids fluttering briefly. Ethan's heart raced as he searched for signs of life. "Stay with me, buddy," he whispered, his voice breaking. The sweat on his brow mixed with tears that burned at the edges of his vision. Around them, the crowd buzzed. Their whispers morphed into a deafening hum, a chorus of judgment and confusion. "What's going on?" someone asked. "Is that his son?" echoed another. Phones clicked, the glow of screens capturing this moment like some twisted reality show. "Call an ambulance!" Ethan shouted, but it felt hopeless. The sirens were still distant, echoes taunting him like the shadows on the ground. The man leaned closer, his breath rancid and hot. "Your wealth could mean nothing today. You need to listen to me before it's too late." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Why should I trust you? You look like you've crawled from the bottom of a grave." Then the man's expression shifted, deepening into something darker. "Because I know what happened. I know about your mother." A jolt struck Ethan like lightning. His mother? Panic surged through him, spreading like fire in his veins. "What do you mean? What do you know?" The beggar didn't reply, just stared at him, eyes fierce and unyielding. But then something flickered in the chaos. Lights moving faster than the crowd. Ethan turned, feeling every nerve scream as he took in the scene. A mob of reporters and cameras burst onto the street like locusts, buzzing around the unfolding drama. "Ethan, is it true? Are you involved in yet another scandal? Is this your son? How do you explain this?" Questions bombarded Ethan, drowning his thoughts. But he couldn't shake the man's words. "Your mother," he whispered again, almost as if he held the key to buried memories. "The truth about her. It's all coming back." Fear and confusion twisted together inside him. Something within him cracked, a long-buried memory surfacing like a ghost. The warnings from his childhood echoed in his mind. Hushed voices, locked doors, fear of shadows. Suddenly, he understood why his family had always stayed away from the edges of society. They had built walls, high and sturdy, and he was losing grip on them. Caleb's breath hitched, and Ethan turned back to him. Time slowed. Caleb was blinking, but panic washed over Ethan as he realized the boy's eyes weren't just dim. They were filled with an alien understanding, a knowledge that didn't belong to a child. "Dad?" Caleb whispered, voice small, but it was the way he said it. Too serious, too knowing, not like his boy at all. A pulse of dread raced through him. "What's wrong? Caleb, talk to me." "Mom, she knew him," Caleb said, gasping as if each word was a struggle. "She said we'd be safe if he didn't find us." Chills raced down Ethan's spine. The world seemed to blur and swirl around him, shadows bending, darkness creeping. The sirens wailed louder, the chaos heightened. A mother's secret, a stranger's vendetta, and a son caught in the crossfire. This wasn't just a day, this was fate unraveling. Ethan felt himself fading into the crowd, the whispers crashing down like waves over his head. His heart raced as he looked between Caleb and the man, fear clawing at him. What had he hidden? What else lay beneath? Suddenly, the world tilted. An explosion of sound shook the air. A firework? No, a blast. Deafening, blinding, the street erupted into chaos. Screams, smoke, fear boiled over like an angry tide, washing everything away in an instant. And in the midst of it all, the beggar's eyes burned with recognition, as if he knew this was only the beginning. Ethan felt the ground fall from under him. What had just happened, and what else might come to light? Ethan felt the chaos spinning around him like a storm, buzzing whispers clawing at the edges of his mind. The half-light of smoke filled his lungs. The reality was twisting, turning into something dark and gleaming, like a blade hidden in shadows. He glanced at Caleb, his son, still struggling to hold on to consciousness. "Caleb, listen to me." Ethan's voice was raw, a desperate plea against the tide of confusion. "We need to move." But the words tangled in his throat as the beggar's laughter cut through the commotion. "You think you can run from this truth? It's buried deep, Ethan, just like the ashes of your mother." Then there was a crack, loud and jarring, shattering the chaos. Ethan instinctively shielded Caleb with his body, fear ripping through him like an icy wind. A figure emerged from the smoke, slowly stepping into view. The crowd retreated, gasping, eyes wide with horror. What broke through the haze was a woman, tall and fierce, hair billowing like a storm cloud. An electric jolt shot through Ethan. "No, it can't be!" As the smoke lifted, clarity revealed the impossible. His mother, or someone he thought, was lost in the sepia tones of long-forgotten memories. "Mom?" The word slipped from his lips like a prayer. "Yes, Ethan." Her voice was the same, strong yet haunting. "You thought I was gone, but the truth, it's worse." Panic clawed at Ethan's chest, memory slamming into him like waves. He struggled to stand, disbelief choking him. "What are you doing here? How?" The beggar laughed again, a sinister sound mingling with the crowd's whispers. "You're all tangled in this web, Ethan. The past isn't just buried, it's risen from the dead." Ethan's world flipped. "You were never gone." The accusation tasted bitter, filled with anger and betrayal. The shadows stretched around, as if the ground itself could swallow him whole. "What's happening?" Caleb murmured, his voice fragile, grasping at the fleeting moments fading from the air. "Mom, is that really her?" "Stay back," Ethan shouted, feeling the wall he built around his family cracking. She was a ghost, yet here she was, her eyes glimmering with familiar pain. "You don't understand," she said, stepping closer, her shadow crawling toward Caleb. "What happened that night?" "Shut up," Ethan spat, clenching his fists, body shaking. "You left us, You made your choice. But her face bore a weight that shattered his anger. I had to protect you. You don't know the whole story. It all spirals back to him. She pointed at the beggar, who grinned wider, eyes alight with dread and madness. Was he what from us? Ethan demanded, battling disbelief and fear, breath quickening. Everything, the man barked. I'm the one who knows the truth. The fortune isn't the money, it's the secrets that hold you hostage. Secrets? Ethan's chest tightened as dread seeped in deeper. Like what? Caleb still clung to him. Dad, what's going on? He asked, his voice quivering with fear and confusion. Your mother isn't just a memory, Ethan, the man answered, voice low and edged. She's the key, too. Ethan felt icy fingers clutching around his heart. The realization struck like thunder. Was this woman truly his mother? Could she have orchestrated the very betrayal now facing him? Suddenly, Caleb gasped, eyes widening, locking onto the beggar. No, it can't be! You're my brother! The world stopped. All around them, the chaos faded into silence. The crowd stunned into unyielding stillness. Ethan's mind raced, crashing against the walls of disbelief as new possibilities spiraled into being. The weight of truth, dark and heavy, wrapped around him. Speak! Ethan shouted, trembling. What do you mean? Who are you? The beggar smiled, an unsettling grin that bore the weight of 1,000 hidden histories. The air chilled, shadows creeping forward as the impossible truth ignited a fire within Ethan. Caleb shivered against him, lost in the tangled legacy of their family. What lay ahead? What hidden truth was unraveling before them in this moment? Time felt suspended, the answer just beyond reach, but the hope of clarity swirled in the uncertainty, and with it, the looming fear that nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan's grip tightened on Caleb, his fingers digging into the boy's lifeless skin. Eyes wide with horror, he barely registered the whispers swirling around him. The awe, the disbelief, the questions that shot like arrows through the crowd. The man beside him, wild-eyed and ragged, continued to stare, a flicker of recognition sparking in his gaze. Ethan, he rasped, each word a shard of glass. You don't know the truth about your son. A sudden jolt of noise erupted from the crowd. A woman screamed, something crashing to the ground behind them. Ethan turned, distracted, just as a flash of blue caught his peripheral vision. A police cruiser skidded to a stop, tires screeching. Instinctively, he focused back on Caleb, but the man's voice cut through like a knife. I can save him, but you have to listen. The beggar leaned closer, desperation thick in his voice. You don't understand what's at stake. Your family is a house of cards. Ethan's heart raced. Could this man help? His breaths quickened, drowning out the chaos around him. He felt the weight of the world pressing down as tears pooled in his eyes. But before he could respond, a loud crash echoed. The police car's door swung open. Step away from the child, an officer shouted, weapon drawn. The weight of authority shifted the crowd's energy, tension tightening the air. Put your hands up. Caleb's body lay motionless, the sirens shrieking again in the distance. Panic surged through Ethan like wildfire. He couldn't lose his son. Not like this. Not now. No! We need help! He shouted, eyes darting frantically between Caleb and the armed officer. Get back! The officer demanded, stalking forward. The crowd gasped collectively, fear crackling through the air. But the beggar stepped forward, raising his hands slowly, eyes locked onto Ethan's. "Listen!" he implored. "I know what they've done. I know what they're hiding." His voice was stronger now, slicing through the chaos, ringing with urgency. "Caleb? He's not who you think he is." Ethan's world tilted, disbelief hitting him hard. What did he mean? The crowd murmured, speculation buzzing like angry bees. Ethan felt the world distorting, the very fabric of his reality fraying at the edges. His mother, the beggar gasped, breathing heavily. Before he could finish, a gunshot rang out. The crowd erupted into chaos, bodies jostling as people screamed and scrambled for cover. Ethan dropped to the ground, instinctively shielding Caleb. The officer had fired a warning shot, shattering the fragile situation into pieces. "Back off! Hands in the air!" the officer shouted again. But through the disarray, the beggar's voice pierced through the din, louder than before. "You need to know the truth, Ethan. Your boy, Caleb, isn't just your son." Ethan's heart stopped. The words cut deep, a jagged blade slicing through the storm inside him. He turned to face the beggar, eyes wild with questions. "What are you saying?" Suddenly, the beggar spoke again, voice trembling fiercely. He's the heir. You didn't just steal a fortune. You stole a life. His life." Time froze. Ethan's mind raced, memories colliding. Secrets whispered in the dark corners of his past. Lies wrapped in silence. The crowd's gasps faded as a shrouded truth hovered above them, dark and heavy. Ethan's heart sank, the floor dropping from beneath him. Everything he thought he knew was unraveling. And in that moment of chaos, with Caleb's life hanging in the balance, shifting shadows crept closer, teasing the edges of his sanity. He glanced back at the officer, the crowd, the beggar, and finally, Caleb. What had he done? What would he lose? With uncertainty rippling through his veins, Ethan prepared himself for a battle that had only just begun. Ethan's grip on Caleb tightened. The city, the people, the secrets, the lies closed in. And just like that, the battle began. "Who are you?" Ethan managed to shout, anger mixed with desperation, his voice barely piercing through the swirling chaos. The man leaned closer, breath ragged, eyes fierce, as if he were confessing something sacred. But before the man could respond, the crowd shifted abruptly. Someone pushed through, breaking the circle of onlookers. An older woman, hair wild, carrying a heavy backpack. Her eyes were wide with panic. "Get back! Everyone, back away!" she yelled, her voice slicing through the muffled whispers. Then, in a flash, she collapsed to her knees, scrambling toward Caleb with a startling intensity. The man stepped closer to Ethan again, intent on his cryptic warning, but the woman's wild movements caught his attention. "You!" she gasped, pointing a trembling finger at him. "You don't understand. He needs to know." Ethan blinked, caught between his son's crumpled form and the frenzy swirling around him. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, throat tight with fear. With a quick exhale, she fumbled through her bag, pulling out a battered old photo. This is Caleb, when he was born." The image was unmistakable. An infant wrapped in a blue blanket, eyes wide as if searching. But what shocked Ethan wasn't the image itself. It was the woman standing before him, eyes radiating a fevered light, as if she held the secret to a door he hadn't meant to unlock. "Who are you?" he whispered, dread pooling in his stomach. "You don't remember me?" she breathed, her intensity heightening. "I was there. 8 years ago. His birth wasn't just a miracle, it was a deal, a pact." "What are you saying? You? You were in the hospital?" The crowd's murmurs rose, turning into gasps. Holders of secrets hovered close, their eyes darting between father and the stranger. "Yes!" She pressed forward, her presence electric. "His mother? She needed help. You don't know all of it, do you? The truth of what he is, who he truly belongs to." Ethan felt reality tilt beneath him. "What? What do you know?" he urged, breathing hard, sweat beading on his brow. Suddenly, the ragged man spoke up again, his voice louder. "He doesn't belong to you, Ethan. Not like you think. Your wealth was built on lies, and Caleb is part of something so much bigger." Panic flooded Ethan's mind as dizzying thoughts spiraled. Was this all a twisted game? A plot hatched from shadows to dismantle his life piece by piece? Before he could process, the older woman lunged, grabbing Caleb's wrist, her eyes wide. "Caleb, listen to me. Do you know what you are? What you could be?" The air froze. The crowd leaned in, every ear straining for the answer. Caleb stirred slightly, his eyelids fluttering, oblivious to the storm around him. As sirens wailed closer, Ethan felt the ground shifting beneath him. The war of emotions raging in his chest, braced against a dark, dawning realization. The truth was upon him, and it threatened to shatter everything he knew. "Caleb!" he shouted, voice breaking, reaching for his son as if pulling him back from an abyss. "Please don't listen to her." But the woman only smiled, a knowing expression that cut deeper than the chaos around them. The crowd held its breath, suspended in a moment where every life felt intertwined. And then, as if on cue, Caleb opened his eyes, fixed his gaze straight through Ethan, and spoke in a voice that wasn't his own. "Dad, I already know." The weight of her words hung in the air, transformation swirling above them like darkness ready to pour forth. Ethan's grip on Caleb tightened. He looked from Caleb's pale face to the ragged man, his heart pounding harder with every breath. The sirens wailed closer, a piercing reminder of the chaos enveloping the moment. Shadows drew thick around them, as if the city itself were holding its breath. The man leaned in, a sparkle of madness in his eye. "You think you hold the reins, don't you? But I know the truth. The whispers in the dark." His voice cracked like a fragile twig, and the crowd grew restless, shifting with curiosity and dread. Smartphones flickered in the dim light, capturing every unbearable second. Ethan stared. What could this man know about his life? His mind raced, but just as he was about to shout something, a strange noise cut through. A crack, sharp and sudden, like thunder in a cloudless sky. But now, then came the explosion. The ground shook under them, chaos erupting as shards of glass and concrete rained down. Ethan instinctively shielded Caleb, his heart lurching. The ragged man stumbled back, eyes wide, panic breaking through his wild facade. The crowd scattered, shrieks mingling with sirens and the acrid smell of smoke. This was no ordinary accident. Ethan's instincts screamed. There was danger here, more than just a sick child and a madman. Amidst the tumult, Another figure emerged from the haze. Dressed in black, they moved through the chaos, almost ghost-like, their face hidden behind a mask. Time slowed as Ethan watched the figure approach. "No!" the ragged man shouted, terror blaring in his voice. "It's too late. You shouldn't have come here." Before Ethan could process, the masked figure lunged forward, steel glinting in their hand. The crowd gasped as Ethan felt a jolt of fear slice through him. Everything spiraled from there. In that split second, the masked figure thrust the sharp object right toward Caleb. Ethan's world staggered. "No!" he roared, every ounce of strength exploding in a desperate surge. He dove toward them as time stretched like taffy. The crowd fell silent, the world sharpening into clarity. That clash of metal rang out, slicing through the thick air. But it wasn't Caleb who fell. It was the ragged man. The blade had struck true, and as he crumpled to the ground, life fading from his eyes, everything spiraled out of control. Disbelief swept over Ethan as he looked back at Caleb. Was he safe? Had he really saved him? But the truth hung like a heavy fog. This man had come to reveal secrets, and now, here at the crossroads of violence and revelation, all revelations seemed to be lost. The masked figure stood over the ragged man. Laughter lacing their voice. "All the lies you've built, they'll come crashing down. You can't run from what you are." Ethan's breath hitched. What did that mean? Was this man just a beggar? Or was there more entwined in the unraveling tapestry of their lives? He glanced at Caleb, whose eyes were wide with confusion and fear, as police lights flashed in the distance, casting eerie shadows through the haze. Ethan felt a chill creep down his spine. He was a father caught in an impossible storm, secrets threatened, and a fragile life hanging in the balance. All at once, Caleb coughed, struggling, battling for breath. Ethan's heart sank further. And then he heard it, a sinister whisper in the chaos. "Now you'll never know the truth." The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, a storm brewing on the horizon of their lives. Ethan stood on the precipice of revelation, the chaos whirling around him, as uncertainty consumed him whole. What was the truth, and who would be left standing when it finally came to light? Ethan's heart thundered as the words hung in the air, like the heavy fog rolling off the river. Caleb, still crumpled beneath him, seemed oblivious to the chaos enveloping them. The crowd held its breath, every eye glued to the unfolding nightmare. The masked figure standing over the fallen ragged man, shadows shifting in the flickering streetlights, the world narrowing into a singular moment of dread. "What do you mean he's not mine?" Ethan's voice cracked, panic rising like bile in his throat. He squeezed Caleb's shoulder, desperate for a sign of life, his mind reeling from the implications. "He's my son, The woman, wild-eyed and frantic, shot a look at the masked figure, the tension between them thick and palpable. "You don't get it! The truth changes everything!" Suddenly, the masked figure lunged forward, reaching into their pocket with a swift motion. Time stretched, a heartbeat pulsing with fear. The crowd gasped, stepping back like they sensed the coming storm. And in that moment, the world erupted. A deafening crack split the night, a flash of light illuminating the darkness. A gunshot? No, a flashbang. It burned through the senses, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Screams erupted, the world turning into chaos as people scrambled, scattering in all directions. Ethan shielded Caleb, his heart racing as the ground seemed to shake beneath him. The ragged man, eyes wide in disbelief, collapsed into a stillness that felt surreal. But as the smoke from the flashbang settled, a figure emerged from the chaos. A tall silhouette, stepping through the madness, strong and confident. "Mom?" It was Caleb's voice, but something in it was chilling, far too steady for a child. Ethan looked at Caleb, then back at the approaching figure, his gut twisting. The woman, the one holding the photo, barked out, "No, not now!" But it was too late. As the figure drew closer, the crowd hushed and the world narrowed to just that point, dread curling in Ethan's stomach like a snake coiling. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. The figure lowered their hood, a familiar face staring back at him, a face he thought lost long ago. It was her, the woman he had loved, the one who had vanished, leaving him in a world of chaos. "Ethan!" Shock rippled through the street. Whispers filled the air, racing like wildfire. "Is that? No way!" Ethan's head spun, emotions colliding in a storm. "You? How can you be here?" His voice shook as disbelief flooded his senses. But she only smiled, a softness in her eyes mingled with something darker. "I had to come back, Ethan. You needed to know the truth." "Caleb," he stammered, looking from her to their son. "What truth?" She stepped forward, moving through the aftermath like a specter of the past. "Caleb is not just your son. He's the heir." Ethan's heart raced wildly. "Heir to what? What are you saying?" "Everything you've built, it's about to come crashing down." The crowd buzzed with murmurs, judgment suffocating the air. The masked figure stood at the edge, watching with an unsettling smile. And as the truth began to seep into Ethan's bones, it felt like the world was tearing apart at the seams. Caleb gasped again, looking between the three adults, bewilderment in his eyes. "Mom, what's happening?" But before she could respond, the beggar, the ragged man, gasped, clutching his chest, eyes widening. "No, not like this," he coughed out, a river of blood spilling from his lips, the last breath leaving his body. Ethan's world fractured, and a wave of horror crashed against him. The truth was unraveling like a spool of thread, revealing secrets and lies intertwined. In that pivotal moment, everything shifted. Caleb's expression changed, eyes glazing over, his voice altered, becoming steady and far too knowing. "They'll find out. They always do." Ethan's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" But it was too late. The crowd gasped, whispers morphing into chaos once more. "Listen!" the woman begged, her voice tight with urgency. "You must understand. You're not just running from." But before she could finish, the city erupted in a sudden blast. Fire shooting into the sky, illuminating the night, casting everything in an eerie glow. Ethan covered Caleb once more, the flames flickering dangerously close, feelings crashing in a tsunami of dread. As the crowd screamed and fled, laughter echoed hauntingly in the chaos. "You've all been played," the masked figure grinned, stepping back. and the game is just beginning. In that instant, Ethan was left standing at the edge of oblivion. The world igniting around him, chaos swallowing everything in a tidal wave of uncertainty. All he could think was how the truth felt like a loaded gun, ready to explode, and he was caught in the crossfire. Ethan stood frozen, heart racing as flames flickered in the night. The masked figure's smile widened, eyes glinting like polished stones. Around him, chaos spread, people screaming, scrambling, desperate to escape the horror unfolding. Everything felt like it was collapsing. "Caleb!" he called, voice cracking as he turned to his son. Caleb's eyes met his, wide and filled with something unrecognizable. "Stay with me," but his gaze drifted, focusing on the masked figure. Confusion clouded Ethan's mind. Who was this person? What did they want from his son? Just as he started to step forward, something unexpected happened. The masked figure raised their hands slowly, almost too calm for the madness around them. "Stop," they said, voice firm but oddly soothing. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not yet. Ethan's heart thundered. What do you mean, not yet? What are you talking about? Then, without warning, something shifted. The lighter in the masked figure's hand flickered like a flame catching in the wind. Before Ethan could think, the figure slashed downward with the lighter, and sparks flew. In a blink, a small explosion erupted from the ground where the ragged man lay. A blast of heat surged, knocking everyone back. The crowd gasped, faces frozen in shock as the fire expanded like a wild animal breaking free from captivity. "Get down!" Ethan shouted, wrapping his body around Caleb. He could feel the heat singeing his skin, watch as shadows danced around them, flickering like ghosts. For a heart-stopping second, everything held its breath. And then it happened, with a mighty roar. The explosion blossomed, a wave of force crashing over him, pinning him to the ground. Smoke filled his lungs, obscuring his sight. A world of chaos erupted, screams echoing, chaos overwhelming his senses. He fought to stay conscious, but fear clawed at him, sharp and relentless. "Dad!" Caleb's voice pierced through the noise, thin and terrified. Ethan could barely see through the smoke, but he sensed Caleb's panic, could feel his son near. Struggling to breathe, he pushed through the disorientation, reaching out, desperately searching for his boy. In that moment of confusion, he heard the woman again, that strange urgency in her voice, now rising above the chaos. "Ethan, you have to listen to him! He knows the truth." But something shifted in Caleb's voice, a sudden strength, something beyond his years. "I know, Mom. I know." "Mom?" The word hit Ethan like a blow. Confusion spiraled deeper. What was happening? Why was Caleb calling the masked figure Mom? Then, without warning, the smoke parted briefly, revealing the masked figure's face. A face he knew too well. A face he thought never to see again. "You?" The words slipped from his lips, yet they felt heavy and weighted with betrayal. But before he could process it, the flames receded slightly, revealing the ragged man slowly rising, blood spilling from his mouth, gasping for life. "No one is dead yet," he wheezed, words painfully slow. Everything connects. This was just the beginning. Time seemed frozen as the revelation hit. Ethan felt the world tilt, and he stumbled back, heart pounding. The masked figure, the woman he loved. Now, intertwined in a web of deceit. "Wait!" he shouted, desperate. "What does this mean for Caleb?" But before he could utter another word, the masked figure stepped closer. Eyes piercing through the gloom, voice sharp. "Caleb is part of something bigger than any of us can hold. He can change everything." Confusion flooded Ethan's system. Anger surged alongside it. "What did you do to him?" Caleb turned to face him, eyes bright, yet filled with something unrecognizable. "Dad, I'm not just your son." The words sliced through him. Everything he thought he knew cracked wide open. Reality swirling in a storm of unanswered questions. The crowd's whispers crescendoed, confusion hanging thick in the air. Ethan stared at Caleb, a deep hollow forming in his chest. "Who are you?" he whispered, knowing he needed answers, but feeling fear swell in his throat as uncertainty washed over him. Suddenly, the sirens blared louder, piercing the chaos, foreshadowing an end yet to come. The truth lay suspended above them all, a ticking time bomb, ready to detonate. Ethan's heart raced, a thundering drum echoing in his chest. The smoke began to clear, revealing the chaos around them. People scattered like leaves in a storm, their faces painted with shock and fear. He could hardly breathe, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "Caleb!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. He turned to his son, who stood there, dazed and wide-eyed, the light of recognition flickering in those small features. "Stay close to me." Caleb's gaze darted between his father and the masked figure, confusion etched all over his face. "Dad, what's happening?" he asked, his voice small, trembling. "Everything is okay. Just listen to me." But deep inside, panic clawed at Ethan's heart. The reality of their situation crashed down on him, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't just a fight, it was a reckoning. The woman, the one who had once been... Is he... Oh, the words caught in his throat. He wanted to scream, wanted to demand answers from the whirlwind around him. "Ethan, listen to me!" She stepped closer, her eyes fierce, holding his gaze. "You always wanted power. But true power comes with sacrifice. Caleb is part of that legacy." Anger flared through him. "Legacy? You think this is about power? My son is not a pawn in some twisted game." "Cut the drama." The masked figure interjected, their voice sharp and mocking. "You're missing the point. You think you can protect him, but he's part of a cycle that stretches back generations. They will come for him, whether you're ready or not." Ethan's chest tightened. The weight of those words hung heavily, the truth pressing down like a lead blanket. He felt his grip on Caleb tighten, fear curling tight in his stomach. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the air, shattering the tension. A police car, lights flashing, skidded to a stop nearby. Officers sprang into action, weapons drawn, shouting for everyone to disperse. "Get back! Move away from the area!" Chaos erupted anew as people scrambled, shoving and pushing. Ethan's focus narrowed to Caleb, their eyes locking with an intensity that drowned out the pandemonium surrounding them. In that moment, everything slowed. "Hold on, Caleb," he urged, moving in front of his son, shielding him from the falling debris. Just then, the ragged man, or what was left of him, gasped, clutching his chest as life leaked away. "You can't escape the truth," he croaked, his eyes filling with darkness. "Caleb, he will change everything." With that, the final flicker of life extinguished. A shroud of silence fell over the crowd, disbelief steeping in the air like a thick fog. "Dad!" Caleb's voice broke through, a whisper laden with understanding. "It's okay. I'm going to be okay." A flicker of hope danced in Ethan's chest. "We'll figure this out, I promise." But doubt wormed its way into his heart. He didn't know what this was, nor did he know how to protect Caleb from whatever lay ahead. The masked figure stepped back, their presence cooling in the aftermath. "You have a choice," they stated, voice steady but cold. "Join us or watch everything you love burn." Time paused, reality closing in. Ethan faced the truth. He didn't know how deep the roots of this darkness stretched, but he had to protect his family. Caleb deserved a chance at happiness, free from the burden of a legacy he hadn't asked for. And just like that, everything shifted. Ethan's mind raced with choices, somewhere between sacrifice and salvation. "Dad!" Caleb whispered, eyes filled with concern. "I'll never let you go," Ethan vowed, determination surging through him. As the sirens blared closer, the specter of their fates lingered heavily. But amidst the uncertainty, one truth burned bright. This battle was far from over. You have to subscribe now. Don't miss a second of what's to come. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Don't wait even a second longer to share your thoughts. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.